From high-speed attacks to pack hunts, sharks have evolved to feed in extraordinary ways. But how do they do it?
When you're that big, that fast, that powerful, you can eat anything you want.
Now, leading scientists and filmmakers brave all to unlock the science behind 5 of the world's ultimate shark-feeding events.
Wow, amazing.
From a 7-ton whale
We were witnessing a major feeding event.
to the feast that feeds 700 sharks. You're about to witness some of the greatest shark chow downs. It's winter off South Africa's east coast. And one of the biggest chow down events on Earth is about to take place. Hundreds of millions of baitfish are swept north on cold water currents. Trapped by land to one side and warm water on the other, they form dense black schools, some over 9 miles long. Known as the Sardine Run, this unique event is like a dinner bell. Hundreds of sharks head to the feast. Blacktips, spinners, and copper sharks form one of the greatest gatherings of hunting sharks on Earth. And they're not alone. Vast superpods of over 1,000 common dolphins track the growing shoals, followed by huge flocks of birds. And leviathans, like the 55-foot-long Brutus whale. Every year for the last 10 years, cameraman Mornay Hardenberg has set out to find the sardine shoals.
The sardine run goes through cycles. Some years are really good, some years no sardines come through the area. We never know before the time, so you just have to be there and hope for the best.
In 2010, Mornay got lucky.
We looked up onto the horizon and we just saw flocks of birds raining down into the ocean. And we knew that there's potentially a bait ball there. So we raced over there. Then when we got there, you could actually see the fish boiling on the surface. Dolphins were working the bait ball hard. It's mind-blowing how fast things happen.
The currents push the sardines closer and closer to shore. The ocean's ultimate chow down has begun.
But when I got into the water, there was a mass load of sharks below the bait ball, but they were just slowly cruising and circling. I was just amazed to see how many sharks and how many dolphins there really were. It was mind-blowing. Dolphins were spinning. I could hear them communicating with each other, and they were pushing this bait ball up to the surface.
Trapped, the terrified fish have nowhere else to go.
And once they get it up to the surface, that's when the birds start taking advantage of it. Once the birds start hitting the water, it's like cannon fire going off. It's literally like being in the middle of a war zone.
Diving from heights of 100 feet, the Cape Gannets hit the water at 60 miles an hour. With the bait ball at the surface, finally, the sharks join the feast.
It took one shark to go through this ball, and once the one shark went through and started feeding, It's almost like he pulled the trigger and then more just came in. It was just chaos, just sharks everywhere. The sharks, they swim straight into it with their mouths open and take as many bites as they possibly can. And you can actually see all the scales of the sardines coming out of their gills. When you're in the water with a bait ball this size, it makes you feel really small.
But some 20 minutes into this extraordinary event, Mornay was about to feel even smaller. A 40-foot Brutus whale joins the chowdown. The few remaining fish scatter. The feast is over.
Your heart is pounding. At the end of the day, it takes a while before you calm down from an event like that. So what really struck me from this bait ball was how patient the sharks were and how they waited for the dolphins to do all the hard work before they came in and made their move. These sharks are smart. Doesn't matter what shark species they are. They're working together to get the most out of the bait ball before the bait ball either escapes or the bait ball is finished.
Taking advantage of the dolphins' hard work is one thing. But 3 years later, Mornay captured rare evidence the sharks are capable of far more than just freeloading.
We were following birds around and we looked out on the horizon and all the birds were piling into the water. But what was interesting to see was that there were no dolphins working around the bait ball on the surface, just the birds going in. And when we got into the water, literally, I've never seen so many sharks in my life. There was not one dolphin, just sharks, probably at least 300 sharks.
With no one to herd the fish, Mornay assumed the sharks would go hungry. He was wrong.
What they were doing was they were bringing this bait ball up to the surface and trapping it up to the surface all by themselves. And that was the very first time that we actually saw bait ball being formed just by sharks and no dolphins.
The sharks start to herd the ball toward the surface, creating a giant tornado of fish. The terrified shoal moves as one. Called the predator confusion effect, it makes it difficult for sharks to hunt. But the sharks have strength in numbers. At least 3 different species of sharks seemingly cooperate, trying to keep the ball stable on the surface to feed. But it's the spinners and blacktips who appear to do most of the work, trying to keep the ball trapped so they can all chow down. The sharks gorge themselves until they can't eat anymore.
What was really impressive on this bait ball was the fact that the sharks did all the work. They found the shoal of fish, they got the shoal of fish into this frenzy where the shoal became a bait ball, and then they pushed this bait ball all the way up to the surface of the water to get it trapped. The sharks were doing what the dolphins do, and that makes them smart in many ways.
You know, we tend to think of sharks as being solitary hunters. But here's a really great example of a group of sharks working together for their mutual benefit, you know? And I think that would have surprised a lot of people. The sharks that we typically see attack these sardine runs are the requiem sharks. These are, you know, closely related species that include the blacktips, the duskies, the copper sharks, that are moving in, likely from great distances, to take advantage of these resources. One thing we know about these requiem sharks is they have a fairly sizable brain, bigger than many other shark species. And we think the complexity of that brain not only allows them to have really amazing sensory systems, but also perhaps some kind of social network that they follow. So it's entirely possible that it allows them to work so cooperatively in these bait balls.
Next, discover what white sharks have in common with serial killers in the Great Shark Chowdown. Dawn, near the southernmost tip of Africa. It's midwinter, and Cape fur seals are weaning their pups. Over 60,000 adults and their young crowd together on this granite rock known as Seal Island. Soon, the pups must go it alone. But the waters here are some of the most dangerous on the planet. Over 300 white sharks patrol the island. And aerial chowdowns can happen at any time. But adult seals are dangerous prey. Fierce and fast, they can easily injure a shark.
Big seals will fight back. They're smarter, they're agile, they can dance around a white shark in the water very, very easily. So what they do is they target the juveniles, which tend to be more naive, they're smaller, they're easier for them to catch.
Now, scientists are beginning to uncover the secrets of how the white sharks hunt here. The seals gather in the safety of the shallows.
Just right off of where the seals are leaving and returning from, the bottom depth drops off to over 100 feet.
It's here the white sharks wait. With a counter-shaded body, dark at the top, they're barely visible from the surface. To reach their fishing grounds, the young seals make a kamikaze dash for the open ocean. White sharks can see 10 times better than us in low light, allowing them to see the silhouetted outline of the seals. Reaching speeds of over 20 miles an hour, the white shark launches 10 feet into the air. It's the ultimate surprise attack from a perfectly designed ambush hunter.
When we look at the white shark, we can see it's really, really well adapted. It's made up mostly of muscle, called fast twitch muscle. That allows the shark to accelerate very, very, very quickly. We look at the shape of the white shark. It's like a missile. It's capable of not only protruding those jaws, but exerting incredible force on its prey item.
But despite being perfectly adapted to ambush their prey, scientists have long wondered if these attacks need brains as well as brawn.
As a scientist, we only see the final part of the attack, which is the moment the shark meets the seal, but we don't know anything actually about the precursor, the hunting stage. Whether the sharks were randomly hunting, just going for a seal when the opportunity was there, or if there was a little more hunting strategy involved, something happening below the surface.
To answer that question, Neil took an unusual step. Teaming up with a criminologist, they applied FBI profiling techniques normally used to hunt serial killers.
Little did we know that this tool would be applicable to our research on white shark attacks on seals.
Treating Seal Island like the site of a crime scene, the science team plotted the exact location of 340 white shark attacks. At first glance, the attacks looked random, but the FBI tool found a pattern.
The white sharks showed a clear search base or anchor point. And what this meant is that the sharks were not hunting, randomly. That they were stationing themselves prior to launching an attack in a spot that was optimal.
Like human serial killers, the white sharks were hunting their victims strategically and carefully choosing the best locations to launch their strikes.
Getting this type of information in the shark world, where their movements and their behaviors are otherwise hidden and invisible to us under the water's surface, this is just amazing.
And when they ran the data again, looking at sharks of different sizes, another amazing pattern started to emerge.
The largest sharks had very well-defined, small focus anchor point, and they had much higher success rates. Whereas the smallest sharks, their hunting was much more dispersed over a larger area, and their success rate was less than 45% overall. This is clear evidence of potential learning, in which that learning actually affords them higher hunting success rates.
Far from mindless killers, Neil's work revealed adult white sharks learn from their mistakes. Honing their skills as they age, they become increasingly deadly.
An adult great white off of Seal Island has a success rate on average over 70%. If you compare that to like a lion, their success rate's only 12%.
Next, how a vital ocean event feeds more than 200 sharks.
Wow, amazing.
In an epic 7-ton chowdown. From aerial acrobats to group attacks, sharks have evolved to hunt in extraordinary ways. But these master opportunists don't just kill, they also scavenge. When a whale dies at sea, it's called a whale fall, and it can trigger one of the biggest feeding events in the ocean. Hundreds of different creatures come to the feast, and sharks are front and center.
Whale falls are incredibly important feeding events. Think of it as the sudden appearance of an oasis in a desert.
Impossible to predict. Studying these events is tough. So scientists in southern England took matters into their own hands. Being towed out to sea, stabilized by buoyancy bags, is the body of a 30-foot humpback whale. Found drowned in fishing lines, a team of scientists led by shark expert Richard Pierce are taking it back out to sea to study who comes to the 7-ton chowdown.
This was the first whale fall event to be studied and filmed in British waters. Dramatic, very exciting, and scientifically very valid and interesting. And this is one of nature's great feeding events. It's a natural event, and it attracts predators and scavengers from miles around.
The location for the experiment is 50 miles from the British coast in an area called the Celtic Deep. Every spring, the warm Gulf Stream collides with the coastal waters here, fueling a feast of plankton, massive shoals of fish, and hopefully, sharks. "50 miles from land, the team drifts with the whale at the surface, replicating what happens when a whale dies at sea. Oil from the whale's blubber leaves a slick the currents carry for miles and miles. Sharks, with their incredible sense of smell, should find it irresistible. But so far, the only visitors are gulls.
There was trepidation, a little bit of worry. Would any sharks rock up?
But 36 hours into the experiment, the birds start to look agitated. Something is in the water.
Shark! Shark! Yeah, look to the left.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Suddenly, there was the blue back of a blue shark. It was absolutely breathtaking.
There we go.
At 5 feet, it's a young adult.
Minutes later, we had one almost double the size, probably about 8 foot.
With the first sharks in the area, the dive team deploys. Blue sharks have been responsible for 4 recorded fatalities. While attacks are extremely rare, the dive team needs to be careful. One of the North Atlantic's top predators is about to chow down on 7 tons of whale. With every head shake, more than 50 razor-sharp teeth saw off mouthful after mouthful. The recycling of some 15 million calories of whale is underway. And soon, more and more blues arrive. Most are female or juveniles. Seasonal visitors to the UK, blue sharks undertake one of the most epic journeys in the North Atlantic. Traveling from as far away as the east coast of North America, some ride the Gulf Stream east to feed in the UK's rich waters.
Many of these sharks would have swum the Atlantic, and finding this whale fall would have really been a bonanza. By the end of day 2, we estimated something like 50 sharks. It quickly became clear that this was something really special.
Already, the whale chow down is breathing life back into the ocean. The oily slick coming from the whale now extends for tens of miles. The blues are eating every part of the whale. Blubber is one of the most energy-rich foods on the planet. Every pound contains more than 3,000 calories. With sharks up to 8.7 feet, the team sees some of the largest blue sharks ever filmed in these waters. But as numbers continue to grow, the mood changes underwater.
We noticed a behavioral change, almost as if a bit more competition was creeping in. The divers started getting bumped.
Sharks bump prior to an attack. It's how they assess what's food and what's not.
The only sensible decision to make was to pull the divers out.
They're all coming out.
Next, as shark numbers soar,
Wow! Amazing!
more than 200 blue sharks come to the 7-ton chow down. For 2 days, scientists have been floating with the body of a 7-ton whale, which drowned in fishing lines. Whale falls are hugely important ocean feeding events. The team is studying who comes to the feast. Over 50 blue sharks have now joined the chow down. After they started bumping divers, conditions are now too dangerous to be in the water. So a remote-operated vehicle or ROV, is deployed.
First we saw smaller blues sort of hanging around the outside, and then as we got in closer and closer to the whale, they were bigger sharks and many, many more of them. Wow! Amazing! God, absolutely breathtaking.
The team estimates there are now well over 100 sharks gathered for the chow down. And looking down into the depths, there's blues stacked on top of each other, all the way down to at least 100 feet.
We were witnessing a major feeding event. It was quite extraordinary.
From the air, there are sharks racing in on the scent trail. How far they've come, nobody will ever know. By late afternoon, the team estimates there are at least 150 sharks. Most are female. Why there are so few males is a mystery. But hardly any seem to make the big clockwise migration around the Atlantic.
I went to my bunk that night and struggled to sleep and actually gave up and came up on deck to make sure I wasn't having a dream.
Day 4, and it's bad news for the project.
We'd hoped to study the whale for at least a week, and I was devastated when a storm cut short our research.
The whale is sunk to the seabed. The floats replaced with ballast to help it sink. As the humpback starts its final dive, the blue sharks stay with it. They follow its slow descent down. As the whale passes through 110 feet, the temperatures plummet. And gradually, the light begins to fade. Whale fall occurs at 282 feet. Only the larger blues seem to follow the whale down. But then, after just a few minutes, they leave. Temperatures down here are just 50 degrees.
These sharks are not going to stay very long at low temperatures because they're going to get their temperature back up again.
Now, it's time for the deep-sea scavengers. Sharks, like sixgills, are known to feed on whale falls. These living fossils can grow up to 16 feet long, able to survive in depths of over 8,000 feet and temperatures as low as 42 degrees. A single whale fall is like a bonanza in these barren depths. For the blue sharks, it's time to leave. These ocean wanderers will ride the currents south in search of their next meal. Over 4 days at the surface, the blue shark chow down is thought to have fed at least 200 mouths. 15% of the whale has been eaten, and over 2 million calories has given new life to the sharks. For scientists, it's been a rare glimpse into a feast that happens around the world's oceans.
This event with 200 blue sharks is an incredible chowdown. It tells us how important these whale falls are to this species living in this open ocean environment. They only encounter food every now and then, so they're moving around from patch of food to patch of food, and they have to also develop multiple strategies. In the case of the blue shark, they not only take advantage of whale falls, there's even evidence looking at their gills that they're able to sift small, tiny shrimp-like creatures out of the ocean's environment. Sharks have adapted over time through evolution to all these different environments, and they've done it so well. Wherever there's food, they're going to find it.
Next, what happens when 700 sharks join the ultimate nighttime chowdown? A remote atoll in the Pacific is home to one of the greatest nighttime chowdowns on the planet. A UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, Fakarava Atoll in French Polynesia is 35 miles long. At its southern end, a narrow 100-yard-wide channel cuts through its barrier reef. And it's here one of the densest gatherings of sharks on the planet occurs. Over 700 gray reef sharks mass in the channel, riding the strong current. For the past 8 years, a team of experts, led by cinematographer Laurent Balesta, have traveled to this remote atoll to investigate how such an extraordinary number of sharks can survive here.
When you count them and you reach 700 sharks in this little channel, it's quite hard to say how the channel can feed so many sharks. There is not enough fish.
So what was feeding this huge army of sharks? By day, the science team noticed the sharks rest, swimming into the currents to conserve their energy. But at every full and new moon, they noticed something extraordinary. Huge shoals of reef fish gather in the channel to spawn. It was the sharks' chance to feed.
It's not like a supermarket, the channel. It's more like a conveyor belt in a sushi restaurant. So the food is passing and the sharks are just waiting.
Driven by the cycles of the moon, as one species finished spawning, the next arrived. It was an endless cycle of free food for the sharks. But the biggest chowdown was yet to come. Every June, the arrival of the full moon triggers the biggest of the Fakarava spawning events.
18,000 groupers here in this place, and that was the highest density known in the world so far.
The team noticed the sharks were not hunting the groupers during the day. The hunt had to be happening at night. Using state-of-the-art high-speed cameras and time-splice technology, what the team discovered next was extraordinary. The sharks, which had spent the day floating in the currents at mid-depth, were all now at the bottom of the channel. And the hunt was on.
Well, the first time we went down and we started to be burned by the shark, it was scary. The feeling was unbelievable. I never see something with so much action, so much behavior, so much energy in the water in all my diving life.
Slowly, dive after dive, the team started to reveal the secrets of how Fakarava's gray reef sharks hunt. Hiding in the coral, the fish are hard to flush out, so the gray reef sharks have to be smart. following smaller white-tipped sharks around, which can swim in and out of small gaps, they appear to let them flush out the groupers before moving in for the kill. An all-night chow down on a scale rarely seen before is soon underway. The gray reefs mob the fish. Escape routes blocked. They make kill after kill.
For the fish, the channel turned into a kind of trap. It's really not easy for them to escape. The sharks are everywhere. I never see something like that before. I never see something so intense.
Hunting together gives the sharks an advantage over the groupers. If one loses, the other gains. It's a unique sort of cooperation.
The shark behavior is a bit like the wolf, but the shark never share the prey. They just fight for it.
Across the reef, the shark pack uses the moonlight to make attack after attack. The chow down is so savage, many get injured. Finally, as the light of the moon goes out, the sharks can feast no more. The ocean's greatest nighttime chow down is over. Just before dawn, the surviving groupers take their chance to spawn. And for 30 minutes, groups of males chase the females, releasing clouds of sperm and eggs into the water. A new generation of groupers will face the sharks of Fakarava next year. Next, meet the cheetah of the sea. Shark! And the fastest chow down on Earth. From plankton-eating giants to turtle-hunting tigers, sharks have evolved to become the ocean's master opportunists.
I am forever amazed with sharks. You know, it's over 500 species that have permeated all the different waters and environments of the world. When I look at all these different kinds of feeding events, I'm reminded about how adaptable this group is. The reason they've persisted for over 400 million years, and that's because they're successful. From plankton to plants to bait balls to whales, sharks have exploited every imaginable feeding opportunity.
And there's one shark that's capable of going after the very fastest prey in the ocean. Off South Africa's Cape Peninsula, underwater cameraman Morne Hardenberg is on a new mission to film the fastest underwater chow down. Meet the cheetah of the sea, the short fin mako.
We know their diet consists of fast-moving fish like bonito, mackerel, and tuna. But we don't really know how they actually hunt these fish.
One of the most energetic sharks, a mako, spends most of its life alone, cruising the high seas with occasional trips into coastal waters. With a top speed over 43 miles an hour, they're the fastest shark on Earth.
What's really cool about the mako is, like the white shark, it's warm-blooded. It can elevate its internal body temperature so it's warmer than the surrounding seawater. Not many species of fish can do that, but the fast ones can. Its tail is built like the tail of a tuna fish, which allows it to propel through the water with great speed and efficiency.
But all this bioengineering comes at a high cost. Makos burn energy so fast, they need to eat more than almost any other shark, consuming the equivalent of some 4% of their body weight every single day.
Because of its capacity to accelerate to great speed, the mako shark can almost eat anything.
But to find out how they do it, Mornay needs to deploy his torpedo cam. He plans to tow these dummy fish next to the special designed rig with a high-speed camera inside.
Spent about 5 months modifying this camera, trying to make it as natural as possible, because what we're after is the actual hunting behavior.
30 miles offshore, the team is ready. Accelerating to speeds of 26 knots, they begin trailing the torpedo cam through the water.
Shark!
And 4 hours into the operation, a shark is spotted.
I see it! It's coming, it looks interested.
Filmed at 600 frames per second, the mako strikes at 20 miles per hour.
What I love about this footage is now we can observe a mako shark doing what it does best. That's chasing down a prey item, latching onto it, and tearing it off.
By targeting the tail, the mako shark disables its prey.
In essence, you're removing the propeller of a boat, and it can't do anything. And once you've done that, you've incapacitated it, it makes it a lot easier to eat. And that's really a wonderful strategy. Use your own body weight and your own body drag in order to separate a chunk of flesh from your prey item so you can feed effectively and get away from that prey item should it decide to turn around and hurt you.
It's yet another different chow down strategy. A unique approach that has allowed the mako to corner the fast food market and survive in the vast desert of the open ocean. From these barren waters to the frozen poles, wherever there's food, sharks are never far away, taking advantage of any feeding opportunity. But today, sharks worldwide are in trouble. From makos to blues, all sharks are in decline. And the ocean's greatest chow downs may soon be a thing of the past.
We're taking millions of blue sharks out of the North Atlantic every year. They're being caught with no limits. This is a terrible tragedy.
And across the world, from the Pacific to the Indian Ocean, the story is the same.
Our oceans are in trouble. Ecosystems are falling. By netting and overfishing, that is the biggest problem we're facing now. And we see the impact on the sardine run. We see the impact of overfishing, which has caused the sardine stocks to collapse on the west coast. Each year we're on the sardine run. You can't help but feel that this might be the last one.
As top predators, sharks are critically important to the marine ecosystem. Everywhere you look, sharks are front and center. So the more we know about their feeding strategies, the better equipped we are to protect the ocean.
Without them, all marine life is in trouble.
Sharks have ruled the seas for millennia. The only barrier between them and us is the shoreline. But think again. Around the world, sharks launch themselves onto land. Is anything out of their reach?
Tiger sharks are eating the birds from your backyard.
A lot of folks were just shocked. Why is there a Greenland shark here?
Moose will wind up in the stomach of a shark sooner or later.
Sharks are stalking the creatures of land, sea, and sky. Our backyards have always been a refuge. But from our coastal shores to the inland suburbs, sharks are having a surprising impact.
I love seeing people's reaction when I tell them this story. The tiger sharks that we sample are eating the birds that they have in their backyard. Because the question they always have for me is, how in the world is that happening? A bird lives in the sky, a shark lives in the water.
Shark researcher Marcus Dryman from the University of Southern Alabama is on a mission to unravel this mystery.
It's cool if they're eating seagulls, and it's really interesting if they're eating pelicans and albatross and things like that. Just to establish that connection for a shark to be eating a bird is pretty wild. But then to find out that they are terrestrial birds, so the birds that you're more likely to see in your backyard, that's just mind-boggling. Figuring that out really raises a lot more questions than it answers.
His first set of clues come from the belly of the beast.
We have here a range of feathers that we've taken from a range of tiger sharks. You can tell these come from a relatively small bird. Tiny little feathers from a wren, from a yellow-bellied sapsucker, from a warbler, from a barn swallow. These are from a brown thrasher, and not just one or two. All of these feathers came from the same tiger shark's stomach. And it's not just feathers we're getting. You can see here feet from a woodpecker. And here we have my personal favorite, the beak from a great crested flycatcher. We pull all kinds of little bird parts out of these tiger shark stomachs.
Tiger sharks are one of the ocean's supreme predators. Named for their distinctive striped pattern, they can grow up to 14 feet in length and weigh up to 1,400 pounds. Their size is matched by their appetite. Tigers are not picky eaters. They'll eat anything and everything. Turtles, manatees, dolphins, fish, and humans.
The tiger shark really is the crazy shark when it comes to what a shark eats, and they certainly do take advantage of a wide variety of prey. That's really what we're here to figure out. This is a complex story, how these tiger sharks are accessing these little birds.
It won't be easy. First, he needs to catch a bird eater, specifically a tiger. Then, Marcus needs to attach a transmitter.
This is a satellite tag. It's a special type of satellite tag called a spot tag.
He'll place it on the tiger shark's dorsal fin. When the animal breaks the waves, wet, dry sensors will send out a signal that Marcus can track on computers. It's the key to finding out where sharks are catching the birds.
Our ultimate objective is to put at least one of these tags out on a tiger shark in this upcoming cruise.
The warm, temperate seas of the Gulf of Mexico are prime tiger habitat.
We're out here to track these tiger sharks. We figure the first step in understanding how they're eating these birds, how they're getting access to these birds, how often that happens, is understanding where these tiger sharks are spending most of their time.
"40 miles out to sea, Marcus and his team lay out nearly a mile of long line with 100 hooks.
Once we catch that shark, we bring it on board, we very quickly take measurements, determine the sex, and use a special template to snap that tag right into place. The whole procedure takes anywhere from 60 seconds to about 180 seconds.
They'll use a sling to safely hoist the larger sharks on board. Then, like all fishermen, they wait.
All right, fish. Who is that?
Oh boy, look at this!
Wow.
Their first catch.
Big mama bull, big bull. All right, guys, let's get the sling ready.
An 8-foot bull shark.
All right, let her swim.
An apex predator and a noted man-eater.
Up, Willie!
Down, down,
The team only attach a number tag, not a transmitter.
down.
All the stomachs we've ever looked at for bull sharks, which is quite a few, I'd say about 100 or so, never seen a single feather. It swam off very strongly. I have every suspicion that it's going to do very, very well.
Bulls are not bird eaters. Marcus has his eyes on his tigers, but you can't just catch one type of shark. Over the next few hours, they pull in 15 predators.
Nice and steady, nice and steady. Up, Willie! Up, 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 up. All right, it's okay. 1, 2, 3.
Sandbars,
I got it, I can let go. Up, Willie! Up! Don't worry about it.
hammerheads,
Up! Monocutters.
nurse sharks,
Easy, crazy horse. Here she is. Okay, on 3, boys. 1, 2, 3.
but no tigers.
That's about to change. I feel like we're about to get, I feel like we're getting close.
"4,700 miles away, in the remote northwest Hawaiian Islands, there's a place called French Frigate Shoals. These tiny volcanic atolls are part of the most remote island chain on the face of the Earth. French Frigate Shoals is home to millions of seabirds. Including albatross, frigate birds, and terns. Each spring, the place becomes a bird-brained nursery. This wealth of potential prey is not lost on the hungry tiger sharks that patrol the beaches. They've timed their arrival to the young albatross's first fledgling flights. The immature birds often rest in the water. In the wild, inexperience can be fatal. Amazingly, this behavior has never been documented outside the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. But sharks don't have to resort to the creatures of the sky. When there's plenty of prey on land. These outpost islands on the far side of the Hawaiian island chain are the last refuge for one of the most endangered animals in the world, the Hawaiian monk seal. Fewer than 1,200 exist in the wild. Growing up to 450 pounds and 7.5 feet in length, the monk seal is agile and fast, able to outmaneuver most predators. In the spring, pups are born, and most of their time is spent on the shore, nursing near their mothers. Just up from the waterline, mom and pup relax. But if they think no predator can harm them, they're wrong. dead wrong. The carnage is brutal evidence.
The aftermath of attacks can be anything from just kind of bite radius scars, which we give them a rating of severity 1 to a 3, where 1 is somewhat superficial, 3 is life-threatening.
Sean Ferry is a monk seal researcher for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
So the sharks are coming in very shallow, occasionally beaching themselves right onto the sand in their attempts to try and get above.
Charles Littman heads the monk seal program working to save the final survivors.
This is the largest factor causing monk seal mortality at French Frigate Shoals. The sharks stay hidden. It's incredible. And we've had people in towers watching for this and stuff, and you don't see anything until it actually happens.
Scientists have observed Galapagos sharks hunting on shore, launching themselves onto the sand to steal seal pups. This behavior's nearly impossible to observe.
We don't know why they suddenly jumped to this behavior, but to me it shows a demonstration that the sharks were struggling to find enough food, and so generally when that happens, species start exploring other niches to try to find, a little bit of extra energy to supplement themselves.
The sharks take a risk in this type of attack.
I mean, the few dangers, obviously the one is, is coming in shallow, and getting beached on the sand.
If a Galapagos shark were to strand on shore, it could suffocate in minutes without water suspending their gill filaments and no rib cage to protect their internal organs from being crushed.
The other threat is there's a large female monk seal who's trying to protect her pup, who in those cases has an advantage, and we've seen the mothers going after the sharks, biting them.
For the shark, it's worth the risk if they grab a 40-pound pup. A Galapagos might last days on one baby seal. Those that survive bear a painful reminder. What was once safe haven has become a killing zone.
I think there's definitely a learning component to this shark behavior. It's been going on for about a little over 15 years. We still think that there's probably less than 20 sharks, 10 to 20 sharks that may be involved in the behavior.
Each year, nearly 25% of the pups are killed.
The tragedy about this predation is, it's a healthy population of Galapagos sharks targeting an endangered monk seal. This food, it's not enough to get them through much more than a few days, the amount of energy that they get from, a single bite of an animal. So it probably benefits them a little bit, but it's catastrophic to the monk seal population at French Frigate Shoals.
This type of beach feeding has been observed elsewhere, most notably in the Maldive Islands in the Indian Ocean. Here, black-tipped reef sharks use a remarkable feeding strategy that showcases their relentless drive and their cooperative nature. Blacktips can grow up to 6 feet in length. They lack the heft and girth of tigers, but they are fast. Their jaws are on the underside of their heads and fold up when swimming, creating a perfect streamline. They also travel in packs with other blacktips. It begins when schools of small baitfish work up the sharks by sending out electrical charges. Large fish like jacks dive in, sending them scurrying. And then come the sharks. Working together. Like cowboys, the sharks herd the fish, driving them to a place of no escape. the shore. Blacktips are high metabolic sharks, constantly needing water flowing over their large gill slits. Every second out of the water could mean death. Large gray herons arrive to enjoy the spoils of war. It's as if wolves herded deer into lakes and swam out after them to complete the kill. For these sharks, there's no line in the sand between themselves and their prey. On the Gulf Coast of Alabama, biologist Marcus Dryman and his team are on a quest to catch and then track songbird-eating tiger sharks. They're reeling in sharks, but no tigers. But then...
Oh, is that a fish? Perfect! Perfect!
A 4-foot tiger shark. Marcus works quickly. Their first order of business, a stomach content test called a lavage, a process of washing out the animal's gut.
This is a non-lethal way to understand what this guy has been eating. By rinsing out these contents, we're able to see what this shark eats without having to sacrifice it, which is obviously the goal. Get ready to catch that. Lift up the tail, please, Kretz. So this is the lavage. This is what came out of the stomach of that medium-sized tiger shark. We're just having a quick poke around here to see what it may have been eating on. These are squid beaks, but in this case, it doesn't appear that this guy was eating any birds of any sort. Pull, nice and steady, nice and steady. That's the one.
Another tiger. This one's a little bigger, nearly 10 feet.
Up, Willie! All the way in, all the way in. All right, down, down. All right. Oh, that's gross. Oh my goodness, what's he barfing? Look down by your feet, look for feathers by your feet. Look for feathers.
No sign of birds, but perfect for a transmitter.
Tags are in.
All right. Down, nice and easy. When we have a big shark like that, it's nerve-wracking. I mean, I want things to go well. I want everybody to be safe, first and foremost. But secondarily, I want the shark to do well. What I'm hoping is that it's going to come up to the surface enough and give us good data to show us where it's traveling here in the northern Gulf of Mexico.
Suddenly, it's raining tigers.
That's the one. Atta girl. Guys, get ready! Stop! All right, now come up gently. Oh, come on, boys. Okay, up. Water. Rub that belly. Up, Andrea. Okay.
Jackpot.
Those are feathers, boys. He has been eating birds. This tiger shark has been eating birds. We're gonna pull it up, set it right here on the table, and get a look at what it was eating exactly. Woohoo! Guys, come up. Hey, guys, check this out. Look. Look, this is exactly what we were looking for. Look at that. Look at all that. You've seen tanagers that have those yellow feathers like this. So again, very consistent with these Tweety birds, just like we've been looking at. Amazing. Drew, you can see the majority of what came out of his stomach was feathers. Look at all that yellow right there. That's incredible. That's nature at its best.
For the first time ever, a transmitter is attached to a known bird-eating shark. Now Marcus can track the animal and find out where it may be finding birds that normally take refuge on land.
It's more than I'd hoped for today. This is very, very exciting. This is extremely important. Up. This is the first time we've been able to not only get the stomach contents from a tiger shark that's been eating little birds, but also to be able to put an electronic tag on that same shark to be able to follow where it's going. That's golden.
In the end, 9 tiger sharks are tagged.
All right, over.
2 showed signs of bird eating.
I think what's truly interesting about this situation is that we're finding this relatively frequently, and that to me suggests that that's an important component in their ecology.
Now comes the hard part. Where are these sharks going? And how are they catching birds? Sharks feeding on birds and seals is unsettling. But what if some of land's largest mammals were at risk? In the cold, dark waters off Canada's eastern shore, another predator is on the prowl. And this one has a much larger appetite. Scientist Chris Harvey Clark has spent his career studying the elusive Greenland shark.
This species has been like the Holy Grail for me. I've been very interested in it. There's been very little known about it.
It's a primitive shark, shaped by 200 million years of evolution. It's also one of the largest, reaching lengths of over 24 feet and weighing up to a ton. It's a known scavenger, but it can attack, using the deep, dark waters as cover. Its prime habitat is thought to be the frigid waters of the North Atlantic, preferring cold seas at 35 to 43 degrees. Chris has sighted the Greenland shark in much shallower waters. He's seen them as far south as the St. Lawrence Seaway, threading their way into the heart of North America. And they're not just here for the scenery. Moose are the largest antlered animal in the world, weighing in at over 1,400 pounds. Moose are at home in the water. Their hooves become giant paddles. Their nostrils can be closed airtight. They're often sighted swimming in the far north. A full-antlered moose would make a considerable meal for a pack of wolves, cougar, or bear. Why not a marine predator? Stomach content tests by scientists on beached and dead Greenland sharks have revealed a surprising diet: caribou, moose, and even the flesh of polar bears. Recently, a couple of Newfoundlanders had a surprise encounter with a Greenland shark.
This is, we call it Norse Harm. It's actually a lot of fresh, but it's also salt. It goes right out into the ocean.
Derek Chalk has fished the inlets and bays of Newfoundland for years.
Moose comes through. They usually come through here, comes over that bridge, comes through, walks right on, but they do swim across, or they swim out to the island.
He thought he'd seen it all, until he watched an 8-foot Greenland shark choking to death on the shore of an inland bay.
When we found the shark, it was just sitting there with 10 feet of land, so we thought it was dead. So I rolled it over, I opened his mouth, taking pictures of it, and that's when we seen the moose hide lodged in his throat.
Incredibly, the shark was choking to death on a piece of moose.
So we pulled that out, and when we got that out, the water just gushed out of his gills, just gushed. And then it started moving a little bit and flicking his tail, and we said, well, this thing is alive. We got to get this in the water.
Derek was joined by his friend, Jeremy Ball.
Never seen anything like this. The biggest thing I've seen here is a seal. It's just fish. You get some salmon jumping at times. Never anything like that.
The two made it their mission to save the shark.
So I asked Jeremy if he got some rope. So he went and got the rope. With he pulling the rope and me pushing, we got it into deep water. Within 20 minutes, it got his strength back and swam out for about 15 minutes, right out around here.
Somehow, a Greenland shark waded into shallow waters.
I think there must have been some really strong stimulus in food being it, and I think a nice stinky moose carcass and some nice stinky moose hide is a good stimulus for this scavenging animal.
Chris Harvey Clark is studying how this shark uses its jaws for biting.
Greenland shark jaws, and they're designed to hold the prey, do a headstand, and then rock back and forth. The whole animal rocking like an auger, and takes a huge bowl-shaped piece of tissue as it rocks. And most of the work is being done by the lower teeth. The upper teeth are just holding teeth. Really, the chunk of tissue is being taken by this lower set of jaws here.
Clark's come up with an idea to entice some biting.
I think a rancid old moose carcass is probably just as good an attractant as anything. So a moose is a nice big package of powerful odor attractant.
Lucky for him, unlucky for the moose, he has his bait. Killed in an auto accident. His plan? Use the moose as a lure. Place it in waters that are known haunts of the Greenland shark. He hopes the rotting flesh and blood will send out an irresistible siren song to the shark. Chris has found his spot.
We've got deep holes right next to the island, and it gets over 400 feet out here. So we know Greenland sharks kind of like deep, dark places, but they also kind of like to pop up into shallow water at night. And if we set up a good, strong, moosey scent here, hopefully we'll have a shark come in. Okay, that's good.
The moose is hoisted over the edge. Its next stop? The seabed.
Get my harness on.
Chris enters the icy waters to place a drop cam that will allow him to monitor the carcass from the boat.
Signature Sharky buckle. We're going in search of the Greenland shark, but this time we're fishing with bait.
The murky depths around Newfoundland are anything but calm.
We have to be ready because these animals are stealthy and they'll appear and disappear often faster than you'd believe.
He's brought along what looks like a sci-fi weapon. A laser measuring device that will allow him to size the shark from a distance.
I keep referring to this animal as the Swiss Army knife of the shark family. I mean, it shows an example of the extreme environments this animal can survive. A mile deep, ice-cold water, up in shallow, warm, fresh water where it's drying out, and somehow the animal survives that and swims off to sea on the next tide. It's a remarkable example of adaptation. What we've got here is a waiting game. We have to wait and see if a Greenland shark comes in and actually attempts to bite and eat from this carcass. It's patience, you know, it's just like sitting in a bird blind waiting for that rare bird to show up. In this case, our rare bird is a Greenland shark.
In no time, the moose garners some attention from scavenging starfish and other bottom feeders. No Greenland sharks yet, but they're here. Day 2. Chris Harvey Clark wants to observe how a Greenland shark uses its jaw to feed. A moose carcass is used as bait. The minions of the deep have begun to strip its flesh. But his intended guest has not arrived.
So it's day 2 of looking for the Greenland shark, and so far we're not having 100% success, so we've decided to up our game a little bit, up the ante. What we're going to do is add another olfactory stimulant in the water. Oh my God, what a stink. This stuff has got a really good olfactory signature, trust me. So, God, let's close that up.
A bucket of pig blood. A cloudy, crimson dinner bell. Chris Harvey Clark decides to take a dive in hopes of capturing an incoming shark on his camera.
Initially, you don't even realize they're alive because they move very slowly. I think that slow movement is part of their stealth, and they can just appear a foot behind you. And in fact, I use mirrors because I've been snuck up on many times by this species, and I've kind of learned to be careful. I've got the lasers on, I've got the lights on, and we're looking for a Greenland shark, hoping we encounter one.
The Greenland shark didn't show. But Chris thinks it's only a matter of time before a Greenland shark appears, not looking for a live moose, but to scavenge on the remains of another dead animal.
I think the creature we call the Greenland shark is really like the hyena of the sea. It's got some predator, it's got some scavenger, and like many animals, if it can take easy food, like feeding from a dead carcass, that's probably what it's going to prefer to do. But these animals also are capable predators, and plenty of evidence of that.
The Greenland shark has not only challenged our ideas on what it eats, but where. Recently, Dean Grubbs, a shark researcher at Florida State, was conducting a survey of marine life in the Gulf of Mexico.
So we're pulling up the line from 1,750 meters deep. There's a lot of tension on the line just because of the depth and the friction on it. But as it gets closer and closer to the surface, you can feel if there's a big animal on it.
What he and his team pulled up made headlines around the world.
The shark's back basically comes clear out of the water. You hear this audible scream of excitement from everybody on board when it comes up, and everybody's kind of like, what in the world is that? I knew immediately that it was a Greenland shark.
A Greenland shark off the coast of Louisiana. Not the freezing waters of the North Atlantic, but the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. How was this possible?
The depth where this animal was caught, around 6,000 feet deep, the temperature there is about 4 degrees Celsius, so 38 degrees Fahrenheit. At those depths, the temperature is the same worldwide. Temperature is what usually drives the distribution of animals more than anything else. A lot of folks were just shocked, why is this Greenland shark here? Why is it lost? I don't think it's lost at all. I think there are Greenland sharks that live in the Gulf of Mexico. We decided to bring it on board so that we could collect all the samples that we need from it.
The shark proved to be a gold mine. Dr. Grubbs was equally surprised by his next discovery.
When I was cutting the jaws out, I was feeling up around the upper jaw. I felt this strange structure, and I was actually able to remove it from the jaw. And what it turned out to be was a stingray spine. The unusual thing about that is that there are no stingrays that live at the temperatures or the depths where we caught this Greenland shark. To have it stuck in the jaw like that suggests that the stingray was alive when it was eaten, but we really don't know. We really don't know how this deep water, cold water shark came across an inherently warm water stingray. I think this illustrates that there's a lot we don't know about sharks. As long as the conditions are right, the temperature's right, salinity's right, there's nothing to stop a shark from moving from one area to another and maybe moving somewhere where we don't really expect them.
Sharks migrating and hunting across marine habitats is one thing, but Marcus Dryman has caught tiger sharks with songbird feathers in their stomachs. He's also attached satellite transmitters to track the animals. Back at his lab, Marcus begins to process the data. First up, a review of the stomach contents from the sharks.
This is incredible. These are the results of the lavage. Here we have primary feathers used more for flight. Here you can see some of the plumage feathers, which have these really brilliant yellow colors. So we have conclusive evidence that he was eating feathers, and now using that tag we'll be able to track his movements to see where he's finding these little birds.
After a month of tracking, the sharks finally reveal their favorite haunts, putting him one step closer to solving the mystery of where they're eating songbirds that live on land. By placing satellite tags on tiger sharks in the Gulf of Mexico, Marcus Dreiman is amassing a wealth of information.
These sharks have relayed their position to a system of satellites in the sky, and from that, on this computer, we're able to see their locations. As this animal's bouncing around here, here, here. So these sharks are all over the place.
Dreiman has developed a theory on how our backyard songbirds are ending up in the stomachs of tiger sharks.
With these mapping technologies, we can see if those bird-eating sharks are hanging around the oil rigs. We can overlay maps of the known locations of those oil rigs over the position estimates that we're getting from these satellite tags. And maybe the birds are finding their way out there. Those act as some sort of an attractant. It's absolutely reasonable that these tiger sharks are showing some degree of site fidelity, which means that they've found that there's prey available at these rigs. Teenagers hang around fast food restaurants, the same kind of thing, right? They know there's good food there, it's easy, it's cheap energetically to get, if you will.
The sharks cruise past many of the oil rigs that dot the Gulf of Mexico. These man-made islands may be a magnet for both bird and shark. As songbirds struggle to fly long stretches over open water, the oil rigs appear as an oasis during their epic migratory flights between Central America and the United States. The tiny birds, exhausted and near collapse, spot the rigs and fly down to rest.
Perhaps they just don't have the necessary fuel to get all the way back to land. They're not water birds, they can't land in the water, so again, they see this rig and it's a feature that they can take advantage of and they can land on and rest. Especially at nighttime, you're talking about a completely dark environment, and these rigs are lit up like Christmas trees. So if you're a bird, and you have to imagine being a bird flying in this featureless area, you're attracted to the structure that has all these lights, but then you realize that it's not a lit terrestrial structure, something that you might be used to. You find yourself 10 to 15 miles offshore with no real way to get back.
The rigs are also a hangout for animals below the waves as well.
As you can see here, this is a very clearly man-made structure. It's very industrial looking, but once you get below, it's truly a reef.
The hard steel of the rig has transformed. Its metal beams have grabbed passing anemones and created a gathering spot for undersea creatures, including sharks.
So all the smaller fish and all the smaller creatures are getting around here to use this area as habitat and shelter. So it's a good place if you're a predatory fish to try to track down some of your food. It's absolutely possible that these tiger sharks have made that connection, absolutely.
Back on the surface, a wayward traveler. It could be a migratory latecomer or a bird blown out to sea by a strong gale.
Still there? Yeah, he's right there, right there. So he's following this boat, and that's an excellent example of what's happening. He's got nowhere to go. There's nowhere for him to be other than some type of a structure. That's amazing. This right here typifies what could be happening. These are examples of these small birds that were probably blown out by those really strong winds we had this morning, and here we are, 5-10 miles offshore, and he probably just doesn't have the gas to get all the way back home. So if he finds himself in the water dead, and the tiger sharks have learned how to kind of associate those behaviors with these structures, I mean, that's one possible way that they could be making a meal of those little birds.
The tiger shark has figured out a way to eat backyard birds. But along the Great Barrier Reef, another shark has done something even more amazing. The waters off Heron Island teem with life, including the epaulet shark. Usually growing no bigger than a meter, It prowls the shallows for small, bony fish. But when the shoals are revealed by the receding tide, the exposed reefs become their prime hunting ground. Small in stature, but amazing in ability, the epaulet shark can walk and survive out of water. Not just for a few seconds stranded on a beach in pursuit of prey, it can spend up to 60 times longer without oxygen than humans can. Their pectoral fins propel them along the reef. The epaulet has adapted to slow its breathing and lower its heart rate. It powers down its brain and becomes a feeding machine, munching on crustaceans caught in the tidal zone. The epaulet is one of the smaller sharks, but the idea of a shark walking and hunting on land sends a chill down the spine. As does the thought of sharks eating birds out of our backyard, or moose being eaten by 20-foot sharks that usually hunt in the deep, dark sea. Beaches inundated by packs of hungry predators. It seems the boundaries between sea, air, and land have been crossed. Or have they?
I don't think we should be surprised if we see sharks somewhere we don't necessarily expect them. As my granddad said, you know, fish have tails, you know, they move. We should be prepared to find out unexpected things about all the sharks. You know, the more we study them, the more we're going to learn.
The truth is, nature adapts. Sharks have lived for 400 million years, and they've always had to transform to survive. Rather than be shocked, we should be amazed at the shark's constant ability to fascinate us.
The fact that these sharks are breaking these barriers, I mean, that's extraordinary. Where they're going to be doing things that completely shock us. So the more we learn about sharks, the more we realize how little we know.
They're eating machines with a hunger that knows no bounds. Living or inanimate, nothing in the water is safe from the shark's insatiable appetite. For more and more and more. Now, dive into a world where absolutely nothing is off the menu.
It's in the cage.
This is the ravenous realm of the sharks that eat everything. Before Mount Everest, before dinosaurs, even before trees, for nearly 500 million years, sharks have been prowling our planet in search of their next meal. But how did these fearless fish outlive 5 mass extinction level events? By eating whatever they can, whenever they can. And that means the strangest things end up in their powerful jaws. Even humans. The clear blue waters of the Florida Keys are filled with 600 species of fish. It's a fisherman's paradise. And 50 feet below the surface, 23-year-old spearfisherman Parker Simpson has just nabbed a large black grouper. But before he and his diving buddy can even head to the surface, Parker has a terrifying realization. Something big is circling nearby. Like leopards of the sea, reef sharks are agile, curious, and can deliver a deadly bite. Reef sharks usually hunt in packs and feed on smaller fish around coral beds. But in open water, they can become aggressive. Parker catches sight of a fast-moving 8-footer. Before he knows it, the shark strikes at breathtaking speed. Instead of snatching the grouper, the shark mistakenly munches on Parker's leg.
Get my gun! Get my gun! I have a choke out of my leg.
If the pain of a gaping wound in salty water isn't enough to worry about, the attack severs Parker's tibial artery. There's blood in the water, potentially attracting nearby sharks.
Well, it's a myth that sharks can smell 1 drop of blood from a mile away. Their nostrils, known as nares, can smell 1 part per 10 billion, which is like a drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Okay, somebody help me now.
Parker scrambles back onto the boat and realizes the full extent of his injuries. That single reef bite tore through Parker's skin, fat, and muscle, all the way to the bone. He's lost more than 2 pints of blood. It takes 3 hours of surgery and 56 stitches to mend. This harrowing ordeal isn't isolated. Seems the more often humans get between sharks and their usual prey, the more often we pay the price. Off the coast of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Carlos Lang and his friends spend the day diving and fishing until he's attacked by a very aggressive nurse shark.
An adult nurse shark can grow up to 14 feet long, and it has thousands of serrated teeth, so you can imagine just how much damage it can do.
With teeth like a cheese grater and a cavity in their throat that sucks food in like a vacuum cleaner, they can turn flesh into hamburger. Lucky for Carlos, this juvenile nurse shark attacks with the power of a dustbuster. But like a full-grown adult, it simply refuses to let go. It may have been attracted to the fish that Carlos had speared, but got a piece of Carlos instead. The young shark eventually swims off in search of something easier to eat.
Oh my God, you're so lucky. That's all it was.
Humans aren't the only ones in the line of fire. With voracious sharks prowling in all 5 oceans, it seems nothing in the water is safe. Because for sharks, he who eats the most wins.
Sharks don't have hands, so they will often use their mouths to investigate. And so when they encounter something that they're unfamiliar with, they might end up mouthing or biting that object.
That impulse to bite before thinking has led to the most unlikely objects being retrieved from the guts of tiger sharks. License plates, tires, rubber boots, a fur coat, a full suit of armor, a chicken coop with the chickens still inside, a bag of money, even TNT and grenades.
Most big sharks, like great whites, bite their prey, let them bleed out. But tiger sharks swallow their prey whole for the most part. And they're known as the trash cans of the sea because they will eat anything.
So, in a world in which nothing is safe from a shark's inquisitive eating, it's a good idea to keep hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times. Mossel Bay, South Africa. The waters off this harbor town are teeming with sea life. That's why these German tourists are on the lookout for captivating sea creatures, like these Cape fur seals. Weighing up to 800 pounds each, these marine mammals are the ideal meal for the largest predatory fish on Earth, the great white.
For sharks, the key ingredient is fat. They use this fat to travel great distances or maintain their optimal body temperature. And recent studies indicate that great white sharks most likely eat a seal every 3 days.
An inflatable pontoon boat filled with tourists, adrift in the center of great white hunting grounds, brimming with their favorite meal. This is the perfect recipe for what happens next.
Hey, Dick!
Rather than feasting on seals, this hungry shark chomps down on the inflatable vessel. It thrashes and tears, easily puncturing it with any one of its 5 rows of razor-sharp serrated teeth. The boat immediately begins losing air and gaining water. While the great white's intention may seem clear, to capsize the boat and devour everyone on board, sharks simply aren't that strategic.
Sharks are primitive animals and act on instinct alone. They attack what moves and try to eat it. They don't make the logical connection that they can sink a vessel and eat whatever tumbles out.
With his vessel shredded and now listing, the tour operator makes the wise decision to hightail it back to shore while he still can. The cost to repair his shark-bitten boat? Nearly $3,000. Living to tell about it? Priceless. Sometimes it's not if a shark tries to eat your boat, but what part of the boat that separates horror from hilarity. In the waters surrounding the Bahamas, 40 different species of shark dine on basically whatever they want. Or at least they try. This 4-foot lemon shark has clamped onto a boat motor and refuses to let go, even when the skipper tilts the motor up and out of the water. But what would possess a normally non-aggressive species to try to eat something so inedible? Sharks can sense minute electrical pulses from their prey's muscle contractions with an organ called the ampullae of Lorenzini. Hundreds of holes in its snout filled with a jelly-like liquid. The engine emits an electrical field, possibly triggering this hungry shark to think it's prey. And there's only one way for a shark to know for sure. Take a bite, or try to. Biologists believe that some sharks, like great whites, are more likely to snag their prey on the surface. But six-gill sharks rarely leave the ocean depths, so it's really not an option. These massive 18-foot predators, so named for having one more gill slit than other shark species, spend most of their days at depths of 4,000 feet and more.
Prehistoric sharks had 6 gills, so the 6-gill sharks today are likely more closely tied to these ancestors.
Six-gills usually live out their lives without ever encountering humans or human contraptions. So when a homemade sub trespasses on their turf, it demands closer inspection, much closer. When ramming doesn't send the interloper swimming in the opposite direction, the six-gills turn up the aggression, attempting to eat the sub. That squeaking is the sound of the shark's teeth scraping against the hull. With nearly 2,000 pounds per square inch of pressure on this tiny sub, the pilot knows that one little puncture could lead to a disastrous implosion, and soon heads for the safety of the surface. Not all prey is fortunate enough to have inch-thick glass and hardened aluminum separating them from the shark pursuing them. Palm Beach, Florida. Coast Guard Captain Ben Chansey hooks a grouper while fishing from his small plastic kayak.
Got him.
I had the Goliath grouper on first. It ate my bait. Then it pulled the rod out of my hands.
That's when Ben's casual fishing adventure turns into a terrifying struggle for survival.
For some reason, the Goliath grouper spit up my bait, and then a bull shark ate it.
Ben's no longer reeling in what he hoped would be tonight's dinner. Now, he's hooked into one of the ocean's most aggressive killing machines.
The bite force of a bull shark is the strongest of any shark. Stronger than the white or the hammerhead. 1,300 pounds of force. It's got 50 rows of teeth, 7 in each row, so this mouth of 350 teeth.
Ben has no choice but to continue the fight. But the bull has had enough.
My first thought was, I'm gonna jump back in the kayak. My second thought was, I still have my flip-flops on. My third thought was, I have a giant shark underneath me and I need to swim back to the boat as fast as possible.
Ben scurries to safety without his boat or his flip-flops. It's not shocking that a tiny plastic kayak can't protect us from a shark's powerful jaws. But steel bars surely can. Or can they? The crystal clear waters surrounding Guadalupe Island make it easy for great whites to see what they're eating, and for divers to watch them do it from the relative safety of an aluminum cage. First developed by legendary ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau, cages like this are designed to keep sharks out. But some sharks, like this 14-foot female great white, didn't read the instructions. She ignores the bait intended to keep her in camera range and opts to chomp down on the metal bars instead. The horrified divers are inches away from ending up inside her 3-foot wide mouth. While most sharks swim away after taking an exploratory nibble, this great white simply won't give up.
Research has shown that baiting large predators may condition them to associate humans with food, and like us, they get aggressive when they expect to be fed.
She rams the boat with her nose, and then turns her attention back to the cage full of divers.
The eyes are a sensitive part of the shark's body. So when attacking prey, white sharks will roll their eyes back in order to protect them.
That's the telltale sign that she's going in for the kill. She clamps down on the cage with enough force to tear off a human limb. And just when the divers begin to think this may be their last dive, this frenzied great white turns tail in search of an easier meal. But some sharks take their cage rage a little too far. On this visit to Guadalupe, a diver has climbed down into a cage, ready for some FaceTime with a great white. The boat crew above begins baiting the waters, leading the ravenous sharks closer and closer, until one powerful great white lunges for a hunk of chum and ends up inside the cage with the diver.
Sharks aren't just blinded when they bite down on prey, they cannot swim backward.
With nowhere to go but forward, the shark thrusts through the metal bars. The crew watches in horror. One of their own is trapped in a box with a 2,000-pound eating machine, and there's nothing anyone can do.
Oh my God.
After 23 terrifying seconds, The shark thrashes free, leaving a trail of blood. But whose blood is it?
Was there anybody in there?
Panic sets in.
Somebody in the cage? Yeah, somebody's in the cage. Somebody's in the cage. Oh my God.
Then, after what seems like an eternity,
Me. It's me.
the diver emerges.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Miraculously unharmed, and walks away with one crazy fish story. Researchers have a few theories about why sharks get crazed around cages. Maybe it's more about the metal than the meat inside.
When metal is in seawater, it sheds electrons, forming what we call a galvanic electric field, and that could stimulate a shark's electrosense, causing it to investigate.
And when metal is on the move, it can really grab a hungry shark's attention. This whiny underwater research drone off the coast of Western Australia is just asking for trouble. In a flash, a 14-foot great white attacks from out of nowhere.
Great white sharks can swim up to speeds of 35 miles per hour. Once they spot a target, they use a burst of speed to surprise their prey, while simultaneously trying to bite it in half.
For sharks, the oceans are all-you-can-eat buffets. But sometimes, the dinner tables get turned. Newport Beach, California. Whale watchers spot some intense splashing nearby. Looks like a thresher shark has caught itself a sea lion. Threshers are keen fighters with the longest tails of any shark species, which they use to slap and stun their prey.
I have been caught by a thresher shark tail, and it is a significant experience.
But as the tourists get closer, they realize the shark isn't the one in control here. This 100-pound thresher shark has literally bitten off more than it can chew, attempting to eat a sea lion twice its size.
California sea lions often predate on small fish and squid, but they are known to also feed on sharks, generally preferring their highly fatty and oily livers.
Don't let the cuddly faces fool you. Sea lions are intelligent, powerful adversaries with the jaw strength of 4 Dobermans. This time, the hunter has become the hunted.
Like all sharks, thresher sharks are born and are independent of their mothers and fathers, and therefore they are on their own to learn how to hunt as well as how to protect themselves.
Ooh, that was a big jump. Big bite.
Since sea lions' mouths aren't big enough to swallow sharks whole,
Oh, man, he's slapping it.
they fling their prey from side to side, ripping off mouthfuls of flesh, giving these whale watchers a gruesome show they never expected.
You don't get a meal like that every day.
Even small prey can occasionally ruin a shark's plan for its next meal. Off the coast of New Zealand, scientists studying deep-sea animal diversity have lowered bait onto the ocean floor. And a small hagfish moves in for a nibble. This blind deep-sea creature is also known as the snot eel, for reasons that are about to become obvious. A shark species known as the northern spiny dogfish lurks nearby, spying what appears to be an easy takedown. These New Zealand natives may not grow larger than 3 feet, but they do pack a punch.
Unlike virtually all other shark species, dogfish sharks have venom that coats their dorsal spines.
The hungry shark confidently clamps down, but the hagfish has its own secret weapon. It instantly releases a mucus-like substance from specialized pores running along the length of its body. The sometimes fatal slime fills the shark's mouth, causing it to gag and recoil.
Though hagfish slime might seem gross, it is actually scientifically interesting. It is made up of strands that are actually stronger than nylon and thinner than a human hair, and takes a really long time to dry out.
Surprisingly, even after 450 million years of evolution, sharks are still attempting to swallow these slimers, despite the unappetizing aftertaste. Some scientists believe sharks develop their incessant taste for blood while still in the womb.
Some sharks exhibit a really interesting trait called interuterine cannibalism, where the largest embryo will actually consume its brothers and sisters to ensure its own survival.
For baby sharks aggressive enough to survive, that ruthless rivalry plays out for the rest of their lives. Like here, back in the Florida Keys, home to the smallest member of the hammerhead family, the bonnethead shark. This is the only shark species known to eat plants as well as animals. And this timid little shark's big appetite has gotten him hooked. While it's impossible to detect with the naked eye, it's actually sending out a distress signal, warning other sharks of danger.
A shark caught on a line sends irregular pressure waves that can travel up to half a mile through the water.
But sharks are born opportunists, so the bonnethead's call for help is about to backfire.
It's like a dinner bell to predators in the area.
Like this 7-foot, 400-pound bull shark. Named for its recognizable snout and its habit of headbutting prey, the bull shark ranks as one of the most aggressive species on the planet. And this one is zeroing in on its smaller, distant cousin. And just like that, it's over. Well, half over. Minutes later, the bull shark swoops back in to gulp down the rest of its kill.
The fossil record tells us that sharks have been eating their own kind for 300 million years, just like in the womb.
You don't have to travel far to witness that ancient cannibalism firsthand. Just up the coast near Miami, these anglers are enjoying a day fishing for tarpon, a game fish that grows to over 8 feet. Suddenly,
That's a bull shark too. Oh,
That is a
he's
big
got-
shark.
He's got something.
one of the fishermen accidentally hooks a small bull shark, setting off a feeding frenzy no one saw coming.
Oh, look at the shark trying to eat that shark. Holy Pardon my language, but
The bull shark just became bait for an even bigger bull. 2 more sharks swoop in to snatch up the scraps.
Pardon my language, but
A little farther up Florida's Atlantic coast is Port St. Lucie. The waters here are often full of black tips, easily identified by the dark coloring at the peak of their dorsal fin. This is the shark most likely to bite humans, as they often migrate through shallower waters. These kayakers notice something strange below the surface, so they drop a camera into the water and find a 4-foot blacktip bitten in half, still alive. Whatever ate half this shark is very big and most likely very close by.
Attacking prey and biting the tail has 2 major benefits. It protects the predator from the toothy end of the prey, and also prevents the prey from being able to escape after the attack.
With the blacktip incapacitated, An 8-foot bull suddenly emerges from the depths to feast on his fellow shark. And it's not alone. An even larger bull swoops in to steal the leftovers. Even more savage shark-on-shark action plays out off Australia's gorgeous Gold Coast. Beachgoers are drawn to these idyllic waters. So are some of the world's biggest shark species, like tigers, hammerheads, makos, even great whites. Officials need to keep those giant jaws away from the beach. So they hatch a plan. They set baited hook lines to lure the predators further offshore. But this attempt to make the beaches safer has the opposite effect.
We're about a mile offshore and pulled up to this line, and you could see that it had been tangled up. The float had a lot of weight put on it.
That's when locals make a horrific discovery. Large sharks are surfacing in pieces, bearing massive wounds that could only be made by even bigger sharks. City officials have inadvertently created a massive shark smorgasbord, attracting a variety of deadly predators to decimate their own kind.
It's not just one rogue shark attacking other sharks, or even one species of shark attacking other sharks. It's lots of different sharks turning on each other.
There's no mistaking that fatal signature. Evidence that even great whites will try to eat their own. And scientists are trying to prove it. Researchers in South Africa are studying the contents of sharks' stomachs to find out who's eating whom.
Along the South African coast, in great whites, bulls, and makos, up to 60% of their diet consists of smaller sharks.
That's right. The majority of the South African shark's diet is other sharks. But is it just larger sharks cannibalizing their smaller siblings? For now, there's just one way to find out. This 9-foot great white was found snared in a fishing net.
Here's the stomach. Certainly something interesting inside. Feels very hard, flat, feels like a fin. It's very definitely a fin of a large shark, something in the region of 8 to 10 feet, which is almost the same size as this white shark.
But as we've seen, sharks aren't satisfied with just chowing down on their relatives. Not as long as the oceans are chock full of other delicacies. Above the surface, the Pacific waters around Guadalupe Island appear warm and tranquil, belying what lies beneath. A massive school of frenzied sardines tightens its formation. Danger is near.
When they perceive a threat, sardines will swim together, tightly bunched in the same direction to avoid being eaten.
The source of the sardines' panic glides into view, an 8-foot salmon shark. The sardines' attempt to confuse the predator backfires. They've simply made the shark's job easier, gathering all its favorite snacks into a single swirling sardine smoothie. Many shark species and dolphins share a taste for these small, oily fish for the same simple reason. It's all about the fat.
They may be small, but sardines have a high variety of fats, making them a staple for sharks.
While oil-rich sardines may be best for their diet, sharks, like humans, occasionally opt for convenience over nutrition. "25 feet above the frenzy, an unsuspecting juvenile black-footed albatross lands on the ocean's surface to rest its still developing wings. While its bony body is much lower in fat than the sardines, the albatross is almost literally a sitting duck. In an instant, a tiger shark strikes. The desperate bird instinctively pecks at the shark. But its tiny beak is no match for the tiger's massive mouth. Also like humans, sharks occasionally allow their appetites to get the best of them. In scenic Mozambique, southern Africa, the carcass of a 30-ton humpback whale washes up on the beach. Soon, dozens of sharks brave the shallows to feast at this all-you-can-eat blubber buffet.
Whale carcasses provide an opportunistic windfall for sharks, providing enough food that several sharks can feed on them at once.
The temptation is too great, and one brazen 13-foot tiger shark pushes to the front of the line, beaching itself in the process. The tiger shark struggles to stay submerged.
We don't know exactly how long a shark can survive in shallow waters. Sharks are fine-tuned creatures. If they get dehydrated, clots would form in their bodies and the muscles that they use to swim would stop working.
This could easily end up being this shark's last supper. Just when it appears the tiger has traded his life for an easy meal, a large wave pulls it back to sea, where it will continue its eating spree elsewhere. But there's another super-powered species that's famous for going really big. Sometimes too big. St. Lucia, South Africa, home to one of the continent's largest tidal wetlands, where freshwater and saltwater combine in warm, clear shallows. While other sharks wouldn't be caught dead outside the salty ocean, one species likes to mix it up.
Bull sharks are one of the only sharks that can survive in both saltwater and freshwater. Through a process called osmoregulation, they can increase or decrease the amount of salt in their bodies.
So this notoriously aggressive predator can hunt beyond the confines of the ocean, making the bull shark lethal to sea creatures as well as land animals alike. Like wild dogs, rats, and antelope. Occasionally, they even take on one of Africa's deadliest predators. A land dweller with the greatest bite force of any mammal on the planet. Nope, not this one. Or this one. That's right, this one. The hippopotamus's jaws open 180 degrees and have a bite that can snap a 10-foot croc in half. St. Lucia is home to the largest hippo population in South Africa, where they live in family groups called bloats. But today, a voracious predator lurks just beneath the surface. They're gonna need a bigger bloat. It's no surprise this brazen bull found his way upstream to these massive creatures.
Hippos feed on grass, and their dung attracts fish. These fish could potentially attract bull sharks.
The shark begins to move in.
Mother hippos spend years raising their calves, and they are very protective.
These moms have circled the wagons. The bull shark darts towards a hippo, attempting to deliver its trademark move, a hard-hitting headbutt. But despite their doughy appearance, hippos are almost entirely muscle. The giant hippos fight back. Seems taking down prey the size of a car is just too risky. And the bull moves on in search of its next, less challenging meal. On the other side of the hemisphere, in Australia's Prince Regent River, bull sharks share the briny waters with another dangerous neighbor, able to thrive in both salt and fresh water.
Saltwater crocodiles are the largest living reptile and lay claim to the strongest bite of any animal on the planet, a whopping 3,700 pounds per square inch.
For comparison, a full-grown male lion bites with only 650 pounds of force. With jaws that destructive, saltwater crocs, or salties as they're called, have been known to feast on everything from crabs to cows. And every once in a while, a bold bull shark trespasses into croc country to compete for food. Tourists are tossing fish to this 17-foot-long saltwater crocodile, and this croc doesn't like to share. Just as the salty snaps at its snack, a bull shark races in for the steal and ends up getting eaten instead. It might seem hungry sharks don't stand a chance against their river rivals. Not so far away, in Australia's Adelaide River, lives the big daddy of them all, an 80-year-old, 18-foot saltwater crocodile named Brutus. While Brutus looks invincible now, this wasn't always the case.
The hide of a mature saltwater crocodile is nearly bulletproof, but when it's younger, with thinner skin, a bull shark could bite through it.
Locals believe a bull shark stole Brutus's front leg when he was young, and it seems Brutus still carries a grudge. When a bull shark slips in to steal from Brutus's plate, these rare photos tell the whole gruesome tale. Moving in bursts of 20 miles per hour, Brutus easily snags the thrashing bull shark. And when he drags the breathless shark onto shore, this dinner date is over. On the other side of the globe, in much colder climates, lives an unusual species that scientists think may also have a taste for big game. Meet the Greenland shark. These 3,000-pound, 24-foot-long prowlers of the deep have the longest lifespan of any vertebrate on Earth, at least 250 years. Which means this particular shark could have been feasting during the American Revolution.
Living in cold water environments and having a slow metabolism enables Greenland sharks to live for an extremely long period of time.
With so much time to kill, this species has the opportunity to expand its palate.
Greenland sharks are both active predators and scavengers, and scientists have found reindeer and even polar bear parts in their stomachs.
But how are deep-sea sharks sinking their teeth into land-roaming predators like polar bears?
Scientists speculate that climate change is forcing polar bears to spend more time in the water, going from iceberg to iceberg. That could make them potential targets for large sharks.
Especially for a shark with plenty of time to wait for its next meal to slip into the water. On the flip side of the menu from rare mammals that are easy to catch are the abundant mammals that aren't. Of all the prey on planet Earth, none must be as enticing and aggravating for sharks as the dolphin. High in fat and usually found in the same waters, dolphins aren't just better swimmers, they're more strategic. If a hungry shark tries to dine out on a sick, slower dolphin or even a young calf, other dolphins cancel that reservation.
Dolphins live in groups called pods, and the pod will usually surround the weaker dolphin to protect it from sharks.
But when a shark catches a dolphin swimming solo, the shark's odds increase. But so does the competition. In Smoky Bay, South Australia, these oyster fishermen are about to witness a dolphin dinner firsthand.
He's got a dolphin in his mouth.
This great white has successfully snagged its next meal.
10 foot.
That is the coolest I've ever seen in my life.
Or so he thinks.
Oh my God, another one, another one.
Oi, oi, massive one, massive one. Oh, oh.
Oh, that just come out from underneath the boat. Oh, that's good to me.
A second great white is muscling in.
Is he gonna fight for it?
Oi, they're fighting. Oh, he just stole the dolphin. He stole the dolphin off him. Oh, he's massive. Oh. Look at the size of the thing.
And just to make sure it's not missing out on another tasty tidbit, it drops the dolphin to bite the boat's motor. Which is when the fishermen decide it's time to leave the shark to eat its dolphin in pieces. It's just another meal, 500 million years in the making, for the sharks that eat everything.